you have been tasked with this huge job of getting the Chinese relationship back on track. What are you going to do? What are your plans there?
Well, what I've done is at the same time that I was appointed, there was a new Trade Minister appointed in China. So I've sent a very detailed letter to the new Chinese Trade Minister, setting out all the ways that we can work collaboratively together and setting out why it's in both our mutual interests that we have a dialogue around our trade relationship. We haven't had an official Trade Ministers meeting with China for over 3 years now. And look, it was a very constructive letter, and I'm happy now to patiently wait for a reply.
So you haven't had a reply?
No, I haven't had a reply, but the letter was sent after Christmas. These things can take time, and we've got plenty to do in the meantime. We've got our UK and EU free trade agreements to negotiate. There's APEC, where New Zealand are hosting this year, where we want to get it up and running again.
Have the Chinese, and has your counterpart even acknowledged the receipt of that letter?
Look, I'm not going to go into the details around what's been acknowledged or what hasn't been acknowledged, but we were on a hookup on a mini ministerial for the World Trade Organisation on Friday night. There was 30 ministers. It's a forum which is hosted by the Swiss government, and there we were talking very constructively, all countries that are on that call, about what needs to be done on World Trade Organisation reform. Our officials obviously continue to hold dialogue, so we'll continue to explore ways to have a very constructive engagement with China, and I'm looking forward to hopefully having a very constructive relationship with my new counterpart.
Well, you haven't mentioned India, and this is the big alternative, if you like, if you compare the level of population. India has potentially a billion, more than a billion customers for Australia. There's been a free trade agreement in the works there for almost a decade. Why is it so difficult to get done in India, and are you hoping for some kind of breakthrough there?
Yeah, look, I would love to see a breakthrough when it comes to India. I agree with you. I think it is an enormous opportunity for Australia, and especially in the current geostrategic climate. I think it's in Australia's interest to engage more deeply with India, and I think it's in India's interest to engage more deeply with Australia. So we're going to begin discussions again with India in March, and my hope is that we will be able to make some serious headway.
It's not going to be easy.
Look, it's incredibly difficult circumstances that in India, as they deal with trade liberalisation, their economy is a very different economy to ours, and obviously they want to make sure that the sectors that are dear to them, and especially their agricultural sector, that they're able to develop and grow in a way that they're competitive globally before they feel like they're very confident to be able to engage with other countries. But there are ways that we can work with India on that, and I was talking to Grains Australia last night, and one of the ways that we think we could support and help is by getting further investment into India, into their milling capacity. You might do that in ports, which would enable us to be able to get our grain in to help their milling capacity. So these are the types of suggestions that we need to be putting to the Indian government as to how we can work with them so we can build the capability of their agricultural sector and actually work with them and help them to develop it. So it's not in a way that would threaten their capabilities, it's a way which would actually enhance it.
Just finally, have you had a quiet word to your counterpart in New Zealand? You two need to be on the same page when it comes to China, don't you?
Oh, look, we've had a number of discussions since I've been appointed, and I'm holding my first formal bilateral discussions will be with New Zealand on Friday. He made some comments. He rang me about those comments and said that he understands he shouldn't speak for Australia. And look, I really appreciated the fact that he picked up the phone and did that, and I'm looking forward to the discussions that we're going to be having on Friday on a range of issues, but in particular, New Zealand's hosting of APEC this year, because it's incredibly important that we can bring all Asia-Pacific nations together again through APEC.